Hello, Nothing But Respect listeners. This is the Nothing But Respect season preview. We went really long because there was a lot to talk about. So we decided to split this up into two episodes. Part one is what you're listening to right now. Part two will be coming out on Thursday.
I think I'm kind of like a, I think people like my because I'm kind of a unique kind of character.
And I have the analytics.
I love to
You just see how games are possessed more intense, how they mean more. I think the U.S. is going to obviously win.
Hello, and welcome back to Nothing But Respect, a very special episode, sort of a quasi-season preview episode. My name is Patrick Redford. I'm joined, as always, by Harry Krinsky. How you doing?
Woo! I am good. I am very excited for this conceit that you have cooked up for us.
Yeah, it's as podcast listeners and blog readers will know, it is season preview season here. In the NBA world, basketball starts 1 week from today, and we were Harry and I were talking about like how do we preview the 25-26 season. And an idea I had that we're going to do now is to review the 24-25 season. And the reason why we're doing this and why I think it's like a good way to get into the season that's about to happen is that like every season preview is sort of, I don't want to say frustrating, but a little frustrating in exactly the same way, where pretty much what they do is say, here's what all these guys did last season. Here is like new additions of a team or new draftees. And then they just sort of map out like this projection into the future, but it's sort of impossible to know when really the interesting thing is, and the thing that's sort of glossed over in that is like, what did happen last season?
Totally. No, there's this funny thing, like the whatever first season preview you consume hits like, just like direct mainline. I'm thinking about guys playing basketball again, right in the arm. And then it's that's it. You're sort of like, it's immediately the half-life is done and it's in your system. So shout out to the I do end up consuming some season previews, but like there are just other ones out there that do the kind of main generic season preview. What I really liked about the conceit, which I like in my TV brain think of it as like that little 5-minute supercut they play before a season of TV to get you kind of like what were the key moments is and what I think will become clear as people listen, and was certainly clear as we were doing research, is every story by the nature of kind of the internet and Twitter hysteria is presented as face value with the same fidelity as like, this is the most important story you will ever read. But then we get the benefit of hindsight of seeing like, it's kind of just basically like one in every three of those, it actually is important, but you don't know when you're happening in the moment, like whether or not, some trade complaint is actually going to end up being the defining thing of the season, or if it's going to end up being like, oh, just like that was some grumbling moment.
Yeah. And there's so much happens. Like the one in three thing, I think is mostly like a volume right. Phenomenon. Like there are so many games, so many players, and like so many sort of agents and other people trying to get stories out there. And I think it can be like, like it all sort of feels of equal import. But then I think the previously on format is the way to sort of lead us into this season. Like we can sort of set up which players and teams have like interesting things at stake. Like what are the storylines that matter? And like, how did those play out last season, basically?
No, exactly. And then the other thing is there are just things, one example which we will get to really quickly or very soon is like at the start of last season, Joel Embiid was a big deal. 9 months later, this amazing profile comes out about him that backfills and recontextualizes our understanding of all of that, which will then, of course, push forward into how we're thinking about this season. So it's and then also just like you forget how much dumb shit. It's almost like a meme in itself that so much dumb shit in the NBA happens, but you forget like, oh my God, there's just so much.
Yeah, like speaking of Embiid, one of the things that I remembered going through is like the Embiid columnist incident, which we will get into very shortly.
Well, let me ask you a quick meta question because I'm curious. How did you? Because we did our prep separately. What was your? How did you even think about doing prep?
I spent 45 minutes trying and failing to sort NBA Reddit by month.
Dude, okay, me too. That's so fun.
I was Googling around like, surely there's a way to sort like top posts, November 2024, NBA Reddit. I want to see what highlights these freaks were on about. And various YouTube tutorials and other subreddit posts led me to believe that this can't happen. Maybe there's a way, but it's too late.
I couldn't figure it out either. But I had the same idea and was like, oh, guess nobody does this. I don't know. Like,
I went back through our texts and our texts with our lawyer, Ox Portello,
smart,
to see what links and photos we'd shared. I read the entire Defector NBA tag going back, and that's a fun one too because like we don't cover everything. Like if you read. It's impossible to read ESPN's entire NBA tag because there you have like Bobby Marks saying what a guy's number is 117 times. Whereas like we probably didn't even do like 80 NBA blog posts, but it's like, oh, like Cade Cunningham was having a moment in February. Like, and that's something we took note of.
I took the same.
What did you do?
Pretty much same thing. The only other one I poked through was various like Bill Simmons and Zach Lowe podcast title and descriptions just to see sort of like what was going on. But yeah, those were kind of the main ones. And then just like the weird, I didn't go back into our text so much, but I did just like start having like hallucinogenic word association trips where I would like read the word name Bernard Lee, and then that would like shoot some other word into my head that I needed to then Google. So there was a bit of an art to it. But yeah, okay. So we switched off every other month, and then we switched off kind of like every other round as we got closer to the playoffs. So well, let's start. You had some big kind of like outline organizing thoughts, top of line stuff.
Yeah.
What? Give me some of those.
I mean, if you think back on the 24-25 season as like this entire text, like I think it's interesting to sort of think through first, like, was it a good season? Like, were the large narratives satisfying and interesting? How do we feel about like the champion and the process of deciding that champion? And sort of what were the themes? And I think there's a couple pretty interesting themes that come through. The rise of like what we have sort of imprecisely called like Hyperball, like the Thunder and the Rockets, and just these general like this idea of playing with like 12 freakishly athletic 23-year-olds. And that happens at the same time as like the fall of the Unc.
Yes.
You know, like it's tough seasons for Clay and Dame and the Suns, and like the Clippers kind of have some issues, and just this general, like, it feels like a transition of generations season. To me, that is like the 1A headline from the season. Yeah,
I agree. I think we are in a maybe 1 to 3 year period where the emerging stars are going to grab the league. And there was much sort of like impatience around how quickly they were going to grab the league, and they probably didn't grab the league as quickly and emphatically as like they would in a movie. But I think when we, over the next 2 or 3 seasons, including last season, we will continue to see basically the kind of the Thompson Twinification of the NBA superstar, and like just how it's, because it's like obviously, and when we talked about unicorns, like flexibility was extremely important, positional flexibility, all that stuff. But it's like positional flexibility mixed with like an ability to keep insane pressure on at all times. I feel like it's funny I sent you an article about like we might see a team press this year, full court press, which is funny because, and whether or not it happens, it's still emblematic of this idea of like ball pressure and intensity, and like making people uncomfortable was a defining stylistic element of the season.
Totally. And like the full court press thing just feels like an application of the principles from last season, literally just push like a couple feet back into the backcourt because,
right.
I mean, I think this was a year where defense had sort of, offenses had been just winning over defenses generally for several years. This was like a big year for defense, just like as a phenomenon. And it's a lot of that pressure stuff you talked about. And that like, again, like you can do that if you're young. Like we saw like Giannis kind of fall off as an on-ball defender. We saw basically if you're over 30, like you just kind of become a power forward by default. Like Klay Thompson felt increasingly like a 4. Like LeBron's just like, is he a point guard? Is he a center? Who knows? And that kind of horseshoe theories around, honestly, to like thinking about Amen Thompson, where it's like he'll bring the ball up, but like switch on to 5s. And like obviously a sort of orthodox positionality has been out of favor for so long, but I feel like this year you really saw it like degrade even further.
Right. I really like that idea of like this sort of horseshoe theory of starting as a do everything wing that is a power forward. And then like as you uncify, you end up all you can do is guard other power forwards.
Yeah. The moral arc of basketball evolution is long, but it starts at and bends toward power forward.
Exactly. Yeah. It bends toward Al Harrington.
Another big, and this is like more specific, another big theme of the season was the Shea and Aura discourse, sort of crisis of the real hooper. You know, is Shea just this like face-tuned algorithmic superstar playing cynical foul baiting ball where like Ant is this throwback to like Jordan era masculinity.
Right.
Again, our lawyer Ox Portello's name comes up because he wrote like it just feels great to even say this in the abstract, a seminal blog post that had everyone talking. Like
yes.
That was great.
Well, I had a question about this exact thing because I saw in a different sphere of media, I think talking about fashion, the idea of like trend reporting as wish casting, in that you are saying the trend, and because your trend piece is itself trendy, you are then kind of like creating the trend
Totally
in this like one fell swoop. And I was like, how much of this? Where is the cart and where is the horse in this? Like, are we, not that we, us three, though our lawyer Ox Portello clearly did write a seminal blog post, but like how much of was NBA media just like wish cast the debate versus how much did it actually arise about like kind of some greater anxiety?
Yeah, that's like I think that's a really, really interesting question. And I think
I don't
it
have an
gets
answer,
at sort of like, I mean, neither do I, but I think it gets at sort of the paranoid state of like basketball discourse generally that we saw last season. Like, although it is sort of funny that the tentpole post of the 24-25 season was made by someone who appears to be a soccer stan in October 2024, which is of course a image of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander on the left and Donovan Mitchell on the right, with the immortal caption, "We outmeted Shea, hold." And that actually, in its way, becomes one of the more accurate predictions of the 24-25 season, in the sense that the Cavs and Thunder were both good and played, probably the game of the regular season.
It is true. You can look at, and I mean, I know we're not going to solve this, so we shouldn't spend the whole time, but like there is something about like, as the attention economy, like as fewer things break through, but then the things that break through become their own sort of like monoculture because they break through. Like the out meeting like did hit every single NBA Twitter person's algorithm. Yeah. So it was like I don't know. There's like a Ricky Bobby what's that maneuver they pull? Like a slingshot. Effect thing going on.
Yeah, that's true. Should we get into some, I guess just before we even start on the off season, this is going to be a long episode.
I'm realizing it's okay.
What are some predictions we got right and wrong? I will start. I did think the Thunder were going to win the title. I was a big Chet guy, remain a big Chet guy, mostly because I'm just sort of fascinated with him vis-a-vis his own internal racial politics, but also like as a basketball player, I find him pretty incredible.
No, he's really fun to watch. He is both on and off the court. He's.
I also thought the Wolves would be good, which like they again, we'll get into them. They're like a major protagonist of the season.
Yes. My two
what
were
did you
kind
say?
of Bucks, but some Bucks skepticism. I was very healthily skeptical of the Bucks, and then my biggest kind of calling my shot moment was predicting on our preseason episode last year that a player would step down from doing a podcast because of basketball on the court performance, which did happen with Paul George.
That is true. And we need that's something we need to address in sort of the epilogue, because there's an interesting evolution, as you've pointed out.
Yes.
To that specific prediction.
And then predictions we got wrong. Let's see. Oh yeah. I'll say mine. I picked the Clippers toward the end of the year. I picked the Clippers to win the championship, which I am going to again, I suspect. And then I guess that was my only main one.
I thought the Pacers would suck.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big that was all injury flash, and I to be clear, I also believed that after multiple miracles in the second round of the next playoffs, and I'm gonna pick the Pacers to suck again this season. So, I think self-knowledge can be important, but you can also reject that. So that's fine. I also thought Brandon Miller would have a really big season. He is one of these guys who gets drafted really high and is a 6'9" player possessed of incredible scoring abilities and terrible decision making.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of Ace Bailey that I find myself eternally attracted to, and sort of the ways that you can recreate the archetype of the real hooper in analytics ball era. And so I really thought and again, I'm going to think so again this year, that the Hornets are going to pop. So
right.
I was wrong about that. They did not pop.
Well, fool you once. Yeah. And then the I guess we both thought the Pelicans would be good last year. I'm going to go ahead and again think they're going to be good this year. We'll talk about that later. All right.
Okay. Prelude. The Celtics have just won the NBA championship.
Yeah. Close your eyes. Remember
where you were.
Yeah.
Remember Brian Windhorst stepping on the ESPN set and calling Luka a fat slob after fouling out and getting ejected or something in game 3, where the Celtics go up 3-0. And it's okay, Luka is sort of the best player in the world. He just did some crazy shit to the Wolves.
Yeah.
Mavs beat the OKC, but it's also okay, he was bad in the finals. The Celtics finally get their redemption, and everyone instantly talks crazy shit about them. And ESPN runs a story before the season about how basically they have retconned a nobody believes in us narrative because people were mean to Jason Tatum and Al Horford's wife in the offseason, which is
genius. Yeah.
Boston exceptionalism at its finest. Do you believe the Peyton Pritchard handles video is AI also?
I can continue. All I'm saying is who's to say, we'll find out this year when he's guarded by a real player. They were it is funny that the Celtics Jason Tatum being the best player on the team that wins the championship, and then just sort of immediately being somehow that's proof that he sucks. Yeah. Was so awesome and such a hilarious we've seen something that is funny about taking this NBA discourse seriously is how futile it is, how Kevin Durant got everything he wanted and paid the greatest cost, all he ever wanted was to win a championship and be thought of as a superstar, and then he does it and everybody's this little short guy on your team is way better than you. Actually you suck. Yeah.
Well, Kevin Durant becomes an important offseason protagonist because even though the Suns have this fraud-making exit against the Wolves, this offseason is an Olympic offseason. Mm-hmm. And Team USA wins under pretty amazing circumstances. It really is Durant, LeBron, and Steph get to form the perfect team. The 3 greatest players of their generation are all playing off of each other. And then Tatum is benched in the process, which is an extremely funny, one of the things I will remember most from the Olympics. It's the Steph explosion and then Tatum getting benched.
It's so funny. Yeah, it really, and then even to talk about the Suns' eventual collapse, it's you have Booker being this super role player, and then it kind of seems oh, okay, they're building something cool or they're going to build something cool in Phoenix, but.
Yeah, the consensus, the Suns make the Beal trade.
Right.
And the consensus is this much shot making talent. This is the people coming into last season were one of the Ringer's bold predictions was the Suns will lead the league in offense this year. like despite losing to the Wolves in that way, I think there was a sort of like, well, it's, KD is still getting settled in, like this much offensive talent, you can't.
New coach, right? Didn't they fire?
Yeah, they hired Bud.
Yep.
Let's see what else happened in the offseason. There was the Cat trade.
Yeah,
that was a big and the Cat trade and the Wolves Dillingham trade, where they traded like a 20-30 something first round pick. Those are both seen as like sort of big second apron era moves of the Wolves can't pay everyone because Cat's on this big, to use Bobby Marks' word again, he's on a big number. And with Dillingham, it's like they don't really have another way to add talent. So they understand that like they kind of have to start getting serious about winning. So it's worth like this is like the only way they can obtain a young guy.
Right.
And they do that with the Spurs, of course.
And then the Knicks like are betting on their window basically being like right now. So we have like a 2 or 3 year period where we can pay for a team talented enough around Brunson, who's on this, sweetheart deal, which we will get to. And
the new TV deal
yes,
is about to happen, and Warner Brothers Discovery is trying to sue its way back into it.
Right. I barely even remember that. Talk about like certain things get memory hold. I totally forget that Warner Brothers like tried to get back into the deal and that there was all this weird. Yeah.
And the number came in bigger than people thought. Like there was a lot of sort of hand wringing about like, is the NBA just dead? Is like, why would anyone pay big money for like live entertainment? It's the only thing. And like it came in a pretty resounding, like a lot of money.
Yes. And then I think if I remember, one of the other interesting dynamics that I suspect bumped up the number is you had these looming streamers. You had Amazon being like, well, what if we get a chunk of the NBA? What if Apple did? Yeah. They paid for baseball. So like there's this I suspect will be one of the last TV deals that looks anything like the TV deals of old. But even so, it was sort of priced at this higher rate, in part because an NBC or a ABC could is scared that Amazon will just come over the top and then you'll have nothing.
Yeah, and as we're seeing from Paramount under David Ellison overpaying a crazy amount for the UFC, it's like getting a live sports property is sort of like a mark of seriousness, and I think guarantees like a certain endemic audience interest that like you just like you said, like Apple wants it, like Netflix has tried to get into sports. It's like there is such competition among streamers because I think like if you have baseball or whatever, you're guaranteed that like some huge number of baseball fans will like, oh well, I gotta get Hulu now.
Have to subscribe to your shit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
People also thought the Sixers were gonna be really good because they signed Paul George. And it's like, oh man, max season all-star Embiid just had this season where he averaged like 75 points a game, and they just got the perfect third star, and he's got a podcast. Like, what could possibly go wrong? Patrick Beverley signs in Israel, and a few months later is like tweeting from a bomb shelter at one point. Dwayne Wade statue is unveiled, and it doesn't look like him.
Yeah.
Zach Lowe is laid off right before the start of the season.
Yes.
September 2020. And that happens at this sort of, I guess, a few months after Woj surprisingly leaves ESPN and Shams comes in. So a major shakeup in the media landscape.
Yes. It's like this shift into, away from journalism, which is great.
It's sort of, and like the timing of the Lowe thing, especially too, it's like he was gearing up to do the season, but also he has sort of been the like bellwether of like consensus, NBA wisdom, and everyone clearly pays attention to him. And I think sort of swims in his wake. And so we're entering the season without sort of the like intellectual center of basketball discourse.
Yes. Which and then a new one stepped up. The Nothing But Respect podcast.
That's right. We aim to fill the void we didn't know was even going to be there.
Yes.
This is I took off season through October. There's like a 4 or 5 games in the start of October, but one of my favorite traditions is 3 games in, everyone being like, okay, the Lakers are going to win the title, the Hornets are going to make the playoffs, and Wemby is ass. And those are 3 of sort of like the early narratives.
Those were the early ones, yes. Okay, I will take the baton. I'll give you all of the ones, and I'll tell you the ones that stuck out to me. Embiid shoves this columnist. That was a big deal. The ratings the deal has just been signed, and this is the first kind of like month where the Nielsen ratings are coming in. The ratings are whatever. People are talking about them. I'll get back to that. The Commissioner's Cup second year, which is important because it's like this. The first year it was fun because it was gimmicky, and now it's now we're kind of settling into like, what is this actually going to be? Okay, right. The courts are blue now. What does that mean for us? A bunch of star injuries happen out of the gate. Jaw gets injured. Jimmy is like injured / pouting. Other people, whatever. I'll get into that. And those are basically the main ones.
You're skipping right over Kyle Kuzma retires from fashion.
Well, no, I wanted that. I'm saving that for the end.
That? Okay, good.
Yeah. Kyle Kuzma, right? Kyle Kuzma,
who is on the Wizards at this point?
What? Yeah, it's Kyle Wizards. Small forward Kyle Kuzma announces in Vogue that he is retiring from fashion, which was very funny. And then another really funny soundbite was LeBron James being like in a post-game interview, being like, the 16 teams who passed on Dalton Knecht, y'all really fucked up, which is just an awesome soundbite. That was, I mean, just in that moment of Lakers exceptionalism was just there was about 5 days where I thought that maybe that was true, and then it does not seem like he will even crack the rotation this year.
Yeah,
which is a shame because I actually did really like Dalton Knecht coming out of college. I have a soft spot for like SEC guys. I just it's always funny. I like an SEC hooper, but now he's part of the media apparatus that I hate. But let's talk about this Embiid thing, because the Embiid story basically becomes one of the biggest stories of the year from like an individual person story. Like there was a lot of it was really unclear what Embiid's deal was. There was kind of this like presumed healthiness. I know he like messed his knee up a little bit playing in the Olympics, but like he generally was like, he was playing. He played in the Olympics, like he was doing fine. And then basically like rumblings started coming out of Philadelphia of like, oh, like, is he going to play? He's not going to play. I don't know. And it had the tenor of the team is protecting the player or is covering for a kind of uncertainty that they are making the decision. The PR apparatus is making the decision to basically like eat shit for a little while. Yeah. Kind of just be like, we're not going to say anything. We're going to be confusing. Reporters are going to be mad at us. We're going to like, the tension in the room is going to elevate, but we are like protecting something, or like we can do that for a certain amount of time.
Yes. And at this point, Embiid like has won an MVP and then was probably even better during the portion that he was healthy in the 23-24 season.
Yes. Like, and as crucially signed a $50 million extension. Which like I do feel like was at the time, obviously surely there were some detractors, but like at the time pretty much everybody was like, yeah, that's what you do. He's the best player on your team. He is the first person people think of when they think of your team for the last 20 years. Like, of course you sign him to the max.
And like you have to take risks to win championships. Right. So like while that contract may be bad in a few years, it's like if you have that guy, you have to pay him. Like that's how it works.
Exactly. You're paying him for past performance, et cetera, et cetera. So you just get the sense that the vibes are bad in Philly. He's not playing as much as he is supposed to be. It's very unclear when he is going to play, much to the chagrin of like daily fantasy and sports gamblers are like, I don't know when Embiid's going to play. Some of this comes to a head. There are two kind of main moments that come to a head in November. One is a Philly sports columnist writes a stupid article basically being like Embiid should play harder or be more locked in because of his brother and his kid, right? Is that what he says? He was his brother and his dad. He in any case, he insults his dead brother is the main, thing you really should not be doing.
Which is like, this is crazy. Like we've talked about the sort of new media apparatus of the league this season, the sort of like House of Highlightsy stuff, the like low out stuff, but like this is a real throwback moment. Just like a dipshit local columnist being like, well, this guy sucks.
Yes. And it is funny. Like I've said this anecdote a few times on the like pod, but one of the big eye-opening things that made me understand and sympathize more with players was when I was covering college football and being in all these rooms with all these media rooms, all these people. And like, you think like you're on Twitter, you think like half the people are this like young, hip, person who's player forward or whatever. But like in the average media press corps on a college football, college basketball, NBA, whatever, it's 80% of them are the same like 11 fat white guys, basically. Yeah. And so like, it is just important to like remember that's the vibe, is like, that's their sensibility. That's their, they're not the only people. And also like, I know plenty of, plump white gentlemen who have hearts of gold, whatever, but just like, you got to know that's
beautiful.
Anyway, so Embiid shoves, they have an encounter afterwards, which is, again, very old school media to be like, I'm going to show up in the locker room after I said something mean to him.
Critical point. This news breaks in the most confusing way possible because Keith Pompey tweets, oh boy, people will remember the Sixers season for all the wrong reasons. The team dropped to 1-4 and Joel Embiid assaulted a reporter in the locker room.
I forgot about this. Assaulted a reporter in the locker room.
Assaulted a reporter after like all this throat clearing and stuff too. It's like, why are you putting the most important update here? Well, first of all, you're getting it wrong. And then why is it like at the end of all this shit?
That is so funny. Yeah. And in a weird way, he was right about the first part. People will remember the Sixers for all the wrong reasons. So Keith was right. The other main thing in this, story was a couple weeks later, there was a team only meeting in Philly after their continued bad start, where Tyrese Maxey voices some concerns about Embiid basically kind of not being super locked in, which is like you really don't hear that much about Embiid being not locked in. You hear like people talking about like, oh, he's moody or he's kind of like strange or terse or whatever, but you don't hear a lot of people being like, Embiid doesn't like work hard enough or whatever.
Yeah.
And so this was which is quite the indictment of somebody who's getting paid $50 million. Like, you want to think that they're working as hard as they possibly can to recover.
Yeah. The issue with him is always that his body's been falling apart, which like he basically just doesn't really play. Like, he just doesn't have a season last year.
Yeah, right. He plays a tiny percentage of games, and half the games he's playing, it looks like he is actively either like limping or playing himself into shape. Where this is interesting to me is a really good feature report, investigative, I don't know what you would call it, I guess like long feature about Joel Embiid comes out this summer, called Joel Embiid Sees You. It was written by Dotun Akintoye, called Joel Embiid Sees You. It's very good. It's very, very long, very sad, and sort of I don't want to step on the whole article. You just read it, but I did want to read part of the rat debate, because as it happened in real time, there was like this players only meeting that got leaked to Shams. Then Embiid kind of freaks out about the fact that it was leaked and was like, why is this players only meeting leaked? And that's sort of all we hear about it in the moment. One of the main parts of this feature that is really good is basically like Embiid has like all these crazy and pretty valid reasons for having like insane trust issues with the team, with people in his life, with whatever. Like, everybody in his life either like dies or leaves him or mistrusts him or gets him to run his body into the dirt. Like, it's very sad. It's, like whatever. But it also just like totally humanizes Embiid's kind of like erratic behavior in these ways. But then there is also, I have to say, a question. This article comes out in the summer, and to this point, Embiid still believes that he knows who the rat is that leaked all this stuff, and is like still pissed about it. And like at the point of this article, like he says the rat may or may not still be on the team. The I'll just read this really quickly. It says, weeks later, after the locker room altercation in November, the Sixers held a closed-door meeting to address the team's calamitous 2-11 start. Details of the meeting leaked the following day. Maxey, who Embiid considers one of his best friends, confronted Embiid about being late for the team, blah, blah, blah. Embiid told a reporter, quote, "Whoever leaked that is a real piece of shit." He reportedly vowed to find the source. And now we're in present day, or like July when this thing happened. Quote, "I know who leaked it," Embiid tells me during a late night phone call after the season ends. "You do?" "Yeah, but I'm not going to. The past is the past," Embiid says. "The one thing I'll say is it's hard being around people that do those sorts of stuff. This goes back to the trust thing. Once you cross that, you can't expect me to be part of the team again. That's just going to happen. The way you're talking about it," then the reporter says, "the way you're talking about it sounds like this person is still around." I say, quote, "I don't know," he says. "Come on, Joel, you know who's on your team right now," I say, laughing. "Free agency just started," he says. "I don't know what's going on. So there's a chance that this person may not be around next season," I say. Quote, "No," he says. "There's a chance they're still around." Then, one final corner of this is when that story came out, Shams went on TV and said, quote, "I saw a quote that said, Embiid knows who the source is. I know my source is. I'd be stunned if he knew." So we've got a real, the Task, the HBO miniseries, is not the only Philadelphia-based rat storyline going on right now.
It's also funny because like the players only meetings leaking is like as long of a tradition as players only meetings happening in the first place. Like you would think that like an NBA player would sort of understand, especially one who's teammates with Paul George, who it would be so funny if he's a leaker, would sort of understand that like this is just kind of how things work. Like leaking that the meeting happened is sort of a like accountability project for those inside of it to be like, well, now everyone knows that we like said we're going to lock in, so now we have to lock in. Like,
right.
It's not a story.
The only right. It is. And this is where Embiid. This is where I think that profile is really interesting. Is on one hand, Embiid's being totally like unreasonable. On the other hand, in the context of like his trust issues, you see at least kind of where he's coming from.
Yeah, and really great story. I really liked it.
Yes, great story, great reporting, all this stuff. I don't have much to say about the ratings. That was the next thing. My main sort of meta take on this, which we said at the time, I think, which is like, was the death knell of interesting people having interesting conversations about the ratings. There's nothing, everything else, like, it's going to come up again this year because it comes up every fucking year. And I'm checking out. I don't care.
Yeah.
Call me when the deal's up. We can talk about it.
It's just the same people making the same points over and over again and making the same logical errors about like, it's not wokeness. It's that people watch less TV. And then when the ratings go up, they don't say anything. And it's just like the degree to which this doesn't scale with like anything in the outside world is just not touched. And it's just annoying and stupid.
Exactly. Yes. And yeah, right. Okay.
Also, wokeness is over. They should have praised the ratings going up to just be like, look, this is what happens if you take Black Lives Matter off the jerseys. Like, really missed opportunity for Clay Travis.
Well, I was gonna say, like, there is a really interesting turn here for all of our IDW listeners. Of you could, if the ratings do go up this year, you could be like, it's because woke is over. Yeah. So
just like free points just sitting there for you guys.
Yeah. I think if you're out there, anybody, any new big political media CEOs at companies that are kind of interested in sparking discourse, maybe around wokeness and Israel, we got a free idea for you. Yeah. The Commissioner's Cup. The Commissioner's Cup is here's one thing I want to say about the Commissioner's Cup. Commissioner's Cup is cool. I'm still in. I like it. It passes the, if there's a big Commissioner's Cup game, am I about?
You mean it's called the NBA Cup, right?
Oh, right. The Commissioner's Cup is the no, that's the W one. I'm mixing up the that's the W's version of this. The NBA Cup. It's actually now called like the Emirates Visit Abu Dhabi.
Shout out,
Emirates
and of course our sponsors of this episode.
Yes. So sorry, the Emirates Cup. if I 60% more likely to like go to Brooklyn Public House and drink a beer and watch it at a bar with my friends? The answer is still yes, which means it still has the juice. So I'm in. It's whatever. The only thing I wanted to say really about this is there is a 45-minute documentary about the NBA Cup that the NBA released, and it is part of a larger trend, which is that the only media apparatuses with enough money to like accurately do short form video or any really video at scale like this are the team and state media apparatuses themselves. Like,
yes,
ESPN can't do a documentary about this, but the NBA can, which is it's like their own level of like cutting out the middleman, which is like that's an actual trend I think we will continue to see. And the NBA Cup is a funny example of that.
Yeah, and also like they have access, and this is happening, you know, years and years into the sort of like Drive to Survive sports propaganda documentary, like,
right.
And you can just apply that on like a Twitter video scale, you know?
Exactly. Yes. The one thing I want to say about the star injuries, because that was one when I was reading back through posts about like, oh yeah, a lot of star injuries. I basically don't remember this. I know that it happened because I read it, but like it doesn't, when I think back on November games, I just am like, oh yeah, it was good NBA season, regular stuff was going on. So like, I wonder if it makes me think that it's less of a big deal than we thought it was in the moment. I don't know.
I think the main reason why this became a talking point is because it was Ja and Zion. And this is like around this point, we're kind of starting to see like that these young teams might be like really good. Like the Magic are playing really well out of the gate. The Thunder are kicking everyone's ass. And then you see like Ja and Zion both go down, like Zion for the 900,000th time. And it's like, oh wow, that generation of stars, like people are doing screenshots at the top of that draft and being like big missed opportunity. Like
right.
We thought these guys were going to be the face of the league and now they can't play. And like, that's why people were talking about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think it's way more important on a individual, like these certain high leverage people getting injured. It was just particularly bad for their journey. I mean, Halliburton just sucks. Like he was about to have the coolest fucking year ever. Well, coolest in a very specific WWE keyfab kind of way, but kayfabe kind of way, but you know, whatever. All right. Those are the main things that takes us to December. What happened?
All right. December, we're getting into the meat of the NBA season. And now like enough games have happened that like people can start to get mad. And so like we saw, I think the best game of the season, maybe of the whole season, but definitely up to this point, was the NBA Cup game where Klay comes back to San Francisco and everyone wears the captain's hats and he has a great game, but then Steph has like a greater game and it's like awesome. It's Cup magic.
Legitimately made me emotional. The everybody waving the sailor caps.
It was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
The Lakers lose to Miami by 45. I read a blog post just posting videos of their defensive rotations and being like, what the fuck is happening over there? So they're mad. The Warriors are also mad. They lose. They have this like crazy meltdown where they lose to the Rockets and they were going to go to Vegas and Steve Kerr gives this big quote where he's like, I'm pissed off. We wanted to win the cup. Like the officials won't let us play. Curry gets all mad. Kerr says that a foul on Jonathan Kuminga is, quote, not one an elementary school referee would have made, which is very funny. Like clearly, like we are both Warriors stans, obviously to different degrees, but like I'm a like Steph GOAT hardliner. Like I understand it's irrational, but like I watch that guy and like anything feels possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to how their season ended, but like it's a very like purgatorial Warriors season up to this point. Like this is sort of when we talk about the fall of the Unc, it's like this is pre-Luka Lakers, and it's like this is just they do not look.
They
like,
just are DOA.
Redick is doing stuff. There's a Sam Vecini post where he posts an ATO with pure filth from JJ Redick, which is what I think about anytime they run a good play. So we're seeing that. The Knicks tank an NBA Cup game to make sure they get the Hawks in the knockout round. And Trae Young goes fucking crazy and pretends to roll dice on the Knicks logo in center court. The Knicks Trae Young rivalry has like been one of these like funny sort of contingent NBA rivalry things that like they played that one series a few years ago, but a lot of it is like temperamentally Trae Young is just like kind of not a Knicks player in the way that like the sort of fiction of Knicks fandom mythologizes what a Knicks player is. Like he's the furthest thing from Charles Oakley.
Right.
And so that was one of the funnier things to happen in December. Do you remember any of this?
Well, I do. I just wanted to, on the Trae Young thing. The every step of the way, Trae Young does the corniest possible thing. He has a podcast on Bleacher Report that is like put out via House of Highlights. Okay, he recorded this year a front-facing beef video about Patrick Beverley.
Oh yeah,
like he recorded a rap song with 2 Chainz. Like he cannot make a PR. He has like the same level of PR acumen as Michael Porter Jr. But just with like instead of about politics, it's like about like
his own reputation.
Yeah,
basically?
like exactly, like his own. And the one exception is when he sees the New York Knicks, he turns into the baddest motherfucker, like the coolest. He has done 3 or 4 of the coolest things I've ever seen anybody do on a basketball court against the Knicks. Like it's this. He can only do this one. He is broken from a swag standpoint every single other way, except when he like 4 times in his career he breaks the Knicks over his legs. It's really special.
It's true, and this is I guess we can sort of wrap the entire Hawks bit here. Like Jalen Johnson had like an amazing start to the season, and he looked like an all-star, and then he hurt his shoulder and was out for the year. And the Hawks basically ceased to exist as a team that matters.
Yeah.
But then coming into this season, like they are getting a lot of buzz again.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Every single Hawks year for the last 3 years, I feel like the idea is like, okay, if Trae Young can't show us this year, he's out of excuses. And then like, it isn't that he doesn't show us. It's that actually sort of like 7 more excuses do happen. So that's a strange reality. The 2 other things, just to color in the Warriors Lakers stuff. One, Steve Kerr at the beginning of the year proclaimed that we were gonna play 10 guys. Just immediately didn't work. Like immediately.
Lester Quinones. It's a tough scene.
And then it's like to play 10 guys, we're not gonna play Jonathan Kuminga. We're playing
6 guys.
6 guys. The JJ Redick, I think this might have only come out after the season, but at the time, JJ Redick was using the turn of phrase "be a banshee" to describe the Lakers. Was this happening in real time, or did this only come out afterwards?
I just listened to the Dan Wojcicki low post appearance yesterday. Two amazing pieces of Lakers propaganda. He very casually refers to Austin Reeves as a basketball genius. And it's like, okay, come on.
It was even more nefarious. It was 3 basketball geniuses.
Luka, LeBron, and Reeves. Yeah, exactly. He also said between December and March they had a top 3 defense, and it's like, yeah, the time of the year when no one is trying, and they like made this trade where all of a sudden they like were basically like tricked into not playing their good offensive players and like had to play defense. Yeah. I love Lakers exceptionalism. It's so there's someone had this post where it was like, don't talk about bad seasons if you haven't lived through the trenches with me. And they posted like a starting lineup from 2017 with like 5 good players who were all still in the league. It's like, man, come on.
Yeah. I love those guys.
In December, the Bucks win the NBA Cup. This is very funny. And also there's a revenge narrative because the year before, Tyrese had done the like Dame time celebration in Dame's face. The Bucks win the cup, which is like another clear sign that like, while this is fun, it's not really an indicator of like who matters, which is maybe fun. Maybe it's like, maybe it is cool that a team like the Bucks, gets to get this like Mickey Mouse trophy. Like, great. Yeah, good for them.
Good for Yeah, somebody. Good for Ryan Rollins. Gets $500,000.
Wemby has a crazy Christmas game.
Right.
Spurs lose to the Knicks, but he has this like totally just futuristic masterpiece. The next day, I go to Golden One Center to watch the Kings play the Pistons. And at this point, the Kings were like, Fox had a 61-point game against the Wolves in a loss. And the Kings had lost like 3 in a row. And it was like, okay, if they can't beat the Pistons on the road, this is either going to be like the moment the season turns around or like the death of this era of Sacramento Kings basketball. And I got to see them lose in the most humiliating. They were down. I mean, the Kings were up like double digits deep into the fourth quarter and just like clearly stopped playing. And it's like, oh, another Tim Hardaway Jr. bucket. Like, oh, there's like Jaden Ivey running around. Kings lose on a 4-point play. Mike Brown is fired like 12 hours later. And the season's basically over. So that's December.
Let's see. What do we have cooking in January? Okay, a lot of shit happens in January. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, you had more interesting months than me.
Maybe so. Yeah, I'll give you the quick ones. The Warriors are still sucking. DeJounte tears his Achilles. The Wall Street Journal reports, and shout out to Robert O'Connell,
future NBR guest
future
Robert
NBA
O'Connell,
guest Robert O'Connell, for in part breaking the story. The same organization, same group of people that were in the DeJounte Porter gambling ring were also smashing all these unders on this one Terry Rozier game where he came out 10 minutes into the game and all the unders hit. And he's still under investigation as of right now. We'll see. I suspect something will happen there. I whatever. I mean, that's a whole nother episode. The what's going to happen there. But that was big because that was like, okay, now we have 2 cases in as many years of serious NBA players gambling. And the idea in general was always like, well, Terry Rozier, like these players are rich, like they don't need $1,000, which passed my logic a little bit, but clearly, like, I mean, Terry Rozier has like $100 million career earnings, and still, we'll see. Maybe he didn't do it, but like, it's still implicated. So it is, the implications are at the very least crazy.
This is a few years after the Shohei Ohtani translator gambling story, which I think is still probably the biggest sports gambling story.
Yes.
But like, this is also not like the last gambling story of the year we're covering too. So like, this is clearly a larger thing that like we will get into at some point in the future.
Yes. I mean, it will. I guess I feel ready to even say that it is going this year. There is going to be a scandal.
Yeah,
it's going to happen every year. Or not. I mean, it's not going to happen every year, but like, it just feels like it's in the water. Maybe it's not going to be a giant one. Maybe it won't be a smoking gun. But like, if you don't think, I mean, people were looking at Gary Payton Jr. celebrations like the Zapruder film because they thought that maybe he was involved in like an under with a Malik Beasley situation. So yeah, we'll see. The two big, or actually, sorry, the three. Let me give you one more small one. It's not small, but it's small in a sense, which is you wrote a blog at this time of the year that was, I think it was titled "Basketball is Good Now," and it's basically teasing out what we were talking about in the beginning, which is like we're now halfway-ish through the season, and some of the stars that we were hoping were popping are going to be able to are showing signs of popping. It wasn't all the ones we thought would pop, but like we're seeing, I am jokingly calling these guys the future 3-time All-Stars.
Yeah.
Because they are like the beginnings of like a kind of like a good NBA career, possible All-Star. You know, I don't think all these people will be 3-time All-Stars, but people like Amen Thompson, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Suggs, Austin Reeves, basketball genius. We're just seeing like this crop. I mean, there are others, but like this crop of people who are seizing NBA stardom from unique places with unique styles. I think probably the best example of this is Jalen Johnson, because he just is such a unique, like whatever, he's drafted. I mean, he was drafted high, but not that high. And then it's all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, he's like 6'10" and can handle, and nobody can get in front of him, and he's giant. Like, so I'm excited to see what he does. I'm excited for I love watching Jalen Suggs play. I think he's just like so additive. So there's a lot of fun, emerging lowercase s stars.
Yeah, and I meant to contrast that against a sort of moment of ratings chatter, because I was just sort of frustrated with this idea that like I have to care about this and like have a position. And it's like, yeah, it's nice when more people watch, the NBA, but like fundamentally it's kind of not like, it's not my problem. Like I watch the games because I like them and read about them because they're fun.
Right.
And I felt this real cynicism with like people just sort of not like, honestly, just not reckoning with like how good Ahmed Thompson was or whatever.
Right.
When really it's like, you just watch the games, like shut the fuck up.
Totally. Now off the court, something very important happens, which is this was, I have to say, another tentpole moment of the NBA season, which was the release of the LiAngelo Ball song Tweaker on January 3rd.
Takes the league by storm overnight.
Overnight was really
like the Cavs are playing in the locker room right after a win. Everyone's like, that new Jello is, it's like everyone instantly is like co-signing this.
It was released on a World Star Hip Hop YouTube page with just the album cover on the thing. So
Yeah.
there's nothing else. It's just that. And yeah, it's kind of it's immediately blows up. I want to read one bit from a great article that friend of another future NBR guest, Alan Cesaro, wrote for Passion of the Weiss about this whole thing, because I think he gets it, something very prescient about this whole thing, which is, he says, in retrospect, we all tacitly understood that LiAngelo Ball, not his popular, presumably more gifted brothers in the NBA, Lonzo or LaMelo, would eventually break into the highest tier of online visibility with his addictively replayable approximation of a Trill ENT era anthem. Of course, it had to be Jello, the family's Frito, who once caused an international incident by getting caught shoplifting sunglasses from a Louis Vuitton store in Huangzhou. A rap neophyte who can pretty convincingly sound like he's from the swamps of Louisiana rather than a Southern California suburb where Ryan from the OC originally hailed. In one fell swoop, he has delivered the Ball family their long overdue glory in the music industry. The former Facebook reality TV show star have outdone themselves yet again with their WWE style myth making. First of all, just bars from Alan.
Yeah.
But, really does get at like what is the new this is the new secret sauce in star making, off the court star making, which is like, it's been called lore, it's been called world building, it's like longitudinal persona stardom over time, but like clearly the Ball family is like tapped into that in a powerful way. And like you wrote a little bit, like when you wrote that Haley Welch Hawk Tua piece, like she was outlining the blueprint of this certain kind of similar, maybe speed running of trying to become a persona, but the Balls have been doing it like they've been like building a lore palace since 2012.
Yeah.
And it's why LaMelo is the number 6 jersey in the league despite having no all-stars. Like there is a real secret sauce here, whether there's an element of like, do you believe that is good for the world? I'm not so sure, but there's certainly a path to celebrity here in this song and this story.
Yeah. And like the thing that was sort of interesting about this was the way that all the players in the NBA seemed to be like really rooting for LiAngelo. Like there was this really like almost like a sense of relief of just like, oh, okay, like he's made it too, like this is cool, like we're all sort of pulling for him. And I can't really put my finger on like why that is, other than like I think there's this there's this like almost survivor's guilt that some players maybe feel about making the league, where you see like all these posts from like Swish Cultures or whoever on Instagram that's like, Taylor Horton Tucker is getting 70 a game in the EuroLeague. Like, it's a tragedy this guy's done in the NBA. And like, the reality is like, there are so many good players who just don't have a place because like, it's so competitive to be in the league.
Right.
And like something that LiAngelo talked about is like, I wasn't making any money, and I wasn't like in the public eye being in the G League. And I'm getting way more of those now with like rap. And I wonder if there's a sort of also an acknowledgement that like all content is like kind of the same now. Like we talk a lot about post consensus reality, but in the same way that like, if you think about it, think about like a public facing career, whether that's in music or basketball, like the point is to get rich and famous. Like he's accomplishing the same goals. So it's like, what's the difference maybe?
Right. Yeah, totally. And then the other thing about this I think maybe one of the reasons why LiAngelo is why everybody liked him so much is like in the same way that like he is a kind of a meme in our lives because we cover and think about and click on Instagram videos about basketball. Surely NBA players, especially when they were like 17, 18, 19, are like clicking on and like had this, now we understand it a little bit more. Like we as a culture understand it a little bit more. But like there was this couple of years where you're like, why do I suddenly know 100 things about LaMelo Ball? Like what? It's like, it was so uncanny. Like, why do I like know who his dad is? Like, and of course that was happening to every NBA player ever because they were high school basketball players who cared about high school basketball and the Bulls were high school basketball stars.
Yeah. So, like we've already moved all the way through the era of guys who are getting drafted being like having old tweets from 6 years ago when they were children being like LeBron in the finals, he a bitch, lol, to now like guys getting drafted, knowing not to do that, knowing they could get drafted. Like,
yes,
we've just like we've moved to this era of sort of, I guess like self-awareness is maybe the word for it.
The next thing we're going to get is going to be like DM leaks. Like it's going to be like, Cooper Flag is going to be like Anthony Edwards. Like he's not that good. And then Anthony Edwards is going to post a screenshot of Cooper Flag being like, what's up, big bro? Like, I love your work. Like, stay, like it's going to be like, you asked me for an autograph in 2011 before your Adam's apple appeared.
They haven't even gone to the main story of this month.
Yeah, we haven't gone to the main story exactly, which is the emergence, which is the Jimmy Butler saga. Probably another one of the just biggest, on court, off the court stories of the year last year, the Jimmy Butler explosion from the Heat. It's funny, like I basically don't care about how Miami fans feel personally because he's with us now. It's like, do your thing.
Yeah, fuck off.
But I do understand the frustration, like Jimmy just like nuked his way out of Miami. But I'll just go through it really quickly. There's a basically 2 or 3 month period of stories leaking out that Jimmy wants out or that he's unhappy, but nobody kind of like officially maybe reporting that he wants to trade until January, where Shams officially reports it, and Jimmy Butler's agent, Bernie Lee, who reps only 2 other NBA athletes, Chris Dunn and Ben Simmons, which is so awesome. Like
it's such a great client list.
So I keep laughing to the idea of him being like, I do not want a basketball player with tangibles. If you can,
he's getting in the lab with his clients being like, that shooting shit, we're over that. Done. No one is shooting a jumper.
Exactly. Exactly. I really got like sucked into his Twitter and like looking at the various, cause so this ends with Bernie Lee tweeting, at Shams, like this like storm of tweets accusing Shams of lying and like making up the trade, but then also of making up the trade demands, but then also of like using ChatGPT to write his tweets, which is very funny and misguided.
Yeah.
insult to throw at Shams. Clearly, Shams does not write his tweets. An LLM would explode before figuring out how to write like Shams.
Yeah, as Shams scholars, I think the Defector staff would take offense to the idea that sentences that uniquely busted could be the product of anything other than a human mind.
A human, exactly. No, he's not. It may be exactly. So
Bernie is also tweeting like crazy style. He's tweeting like an angry old man. Like he doesn't really get the meta of like how people interact. And like, you know, like Shams' whole thing is just stenographing agent reports. And then for an agent to be like, this guy's doing fake news is like, come on, man. Like everyone kind of understands. Like it's weird to have that guy mad at that guy.
Yes, right. Exactly. Like it's more likely that Bernie Lee is Shams' source for the Joel Embiid leak in some crazy fucked up way than it would be that they're like enemies with each other. They really, there's a bit of a narcissism of small differences here in the, like how you get your team out. And then like, of course, Jimmy Butler did request a trade and was requesting a trade the entire time. And it was all about this, deal that the Heat were not wanting to offer him, even though the entire thing was framed to everybody about the whole idea was that Jimmy's like, I lost my joy, but it was like so clearly reported beyond basically any reasonable doubt that it was about whether or not the Heat were going to extend him at the max. And then eventually the Warriors do extend him at close to the max, and he, lo and behold, ends up on the Warriors. And believe it or not, he's enjoying playing basketball again. And like,
yeah.
There's, you know, we're not, this kind of double speak is not new and we're not inventing double speak here. We're not inventing, you know, all kinds of stuff happens here, but there was a level of stupidness and like derision for the consumer in this one that I did find to be like a bit maddening. Like,
yeah,
it almost felt like there was this entire shadow narrative that was being presented to us, even though we all knew that the narrative was bullshit, but like we still had to, I'm not saying you and I, but like the apparatus still had to engage in the narrative, even though it was so plainly stupid.
Yeah. That's what made the Bernie Lee posturing so annoying is like they're pretending like it's 1995 again, and that you can just like agitate by sort of like getting your quote out there in the paper when it's like everyone can read all these reports. They know not only exactly what Butler wants, because that's been reported in all these ways, but like they've seen this format of like trade demand and eventual trade, you know, trade actually go down itself from Jimmy Butler. Like none of this is new. It's like they're asking us all to believe in this like totally fictive version of how life in the NBA works. And it's like, it's sort of insulting to fans, but it's more embarrassing. It's like, come on, like you should know that everyone knows how this works.
Right. It does sort of like reveal it. It made me feel like Bernie Lee was in over his head. Like, I'm like, don't you like, if I know how this works, like you should know how this works.
Shouldn't you be negotiating with like teams in the Hungarian league for Ben Simmons' next deal? Like you have more important things to do.
Right. Like Jimmy's gonna, you know, and I don't like, whatever. I don't know. Maybe he's a great agent behind the scenes. None of us know, but there is a little bit. And I run into this when I'm, you know, in podcast booking sometimes where like there is a, maybe not with agents, but sometimes with like PR people, a need to continuously justify why you're there.
Yeah.
Of like, I need to like nobody cares if you take a look at my questions before the podcast interview, but like I need to ask for them because I need to justify that like it's important that somebody asks for them before. Because if you think too much about it, maybe you shouldn't be paying me 10% of your salary. And like, I want to be cautious because like, I don't know shit about being an agent. Like maybe Bernie Lee works really hard for Jimmy. I'm not trying to say that he doesn't, and it's all a sham. But like there's at the very least there does seem like maybe needing to prove that I'm kind of at the center of this, that I understand more than the general public.
Yeah. No, I think that's an accurate read.
Okay, that was part 1 of the season preview. Part 2 is coming out on Thursday.